As a prosecutor, Kamala locked up murderers and drug traffickers. She will never rest in defense of our freedom and safety. Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial, and when he woke up, he made his own kind of history, the first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions.
Okay, so that was, of course, everybody knows who that was, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the last woman before Vice President Harris to be the Democratic nominee, broke many glass ceilings. She got a rousing response in the room, no question about it. And she gave a speech in there that fully embraced, lifted up Vice President Harris. She passed a different kind of baton tonight. But I wanted to ask you, Michael, just about, because you mentioned this earlier,
yes,
because there were people chanting in the back there, lock him up.
Yes.
And we don't know what was going through her head. I'd love to know the thought bubble.
It was probably the most rich, ironic moment in political history. You can see it on her face at one point. She was just kind of like getting in the groove of it. And I don't blame her. I mean, you listen to what people said about this woman from the time she was U.S. Senator onward, especially. I mean, there was a lot of Republicans that she's always been the boogeyman for a lot of Republicans for a long time. But this whole idea of locking her up because of crimes she never committed and wrongdoing that she was never involved with. And to have someone who's now sitting there running for president with 34 convictions, yeah, it's a little bit ironic to have that moment unfold. And I watched, immediately went to Twitter to see what the reaction would be. And, Democrats, y'all just need to get a grip, baby. Go with the flow. It's okay if you shout, lock him up, because he gets sentenced in 3 weeks. All right, so come on, let's understand.
Yeah. Well, Harris and Walz have kind of been
wrong with it.
Harris and Walz, the ticket, have kind of been tamping it down when they're asked about this, right, Anthony?
Right. The court system is going to deal with Trump's legal issues, and I know you're not saying the opposite. You know, Democrats were just having a little fun tonight.
Let them have fun.
You know, I'm putting on my DOJ hat.
I know he's going full DOJ right now. He's going full DOJ.
I think they should be separate, and let's just let the jury of the American people deal with Donald Trump, the politician. Now, about Hillary Clinton, this speech herself, it was hopeful, it was optimistic. It reminded me the theme of her husband's first campaign. Do you remember that thing? Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Right. She was optimistic. She was forward-looking. She had every reason to be bitter, to air her grievances. She did none of that. She was a class act. And, I have to say this. She was the most qualified person to ever run for president of the United States. It was America's loss that she never took the office.
Ben, you covered her for how long?
Gosh, half my life.
And
she was not always that good, actually, right?
Oh, so what were you thinking as you were watching it?
But honestly, I think the most sort of impressive thing is that one of the things about Kamala Harris that folks who you worked with certainly raised questions about her political abilities. And could she, in a moment like this, pull it together? And I do think something that was obviously happening behind the scenes was she was working people like the Clintons very, very hard over a period of years so that when this moment happened, when she got her chance, she called up the Clintons. They rushed out an endorsement of her that was part of what tipped it.
It was right away. I mean, they were so fast.
And she was so she had really very skillfully laid a kind of behind the scenes groundwork for a presidential campaign, whether it was going to be now or whether it was going to be in 4 years, that I think I hadn't realized and hadn't seen, and you're really seeing at this convention.
But that's also the untold story of Kamala Harris. We got a glimpse of this tonight when Jasmine Crockett talked about how she was going through a moment, and Kamala Harris just came in and gave her advice, and so much so that she cried. Kamala Harris got to this moment because of the behind-the-scenes work and relationship buildings and grassroots report that people never saw. On abortion, she traveled the country speaking day in and day out, and she got exceptional local media coverage. People in the national level, God bless them, didn't pick up what we are all seeing now. The world is seeing.
I want to just bring it. Let me just bring in Molly. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, Molly,
I want to bring in Molly because we have to bring in Molly. She always has smart, good thoughts. Molly, I want to play also a part of Clinton's speech that it struck me, and I'm sure it struck you, and it's a little different from how Vice President Harris is talking about running as a woman. So let's play that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Together, we've put a lot of cracks in the highest, hardest glass ceiling. And tonight, so close to breaking through once and for all, I want to tell you what I see through all those cracks and why it matters for each and every one of us. What do I see? I see freedom. I see the freedom to make our own decisions about our health, our lives, our loves, our families. The freedom to work with dignity and prosper, to worship as we choose or not, to speak our minds freely and honestly. I see freedom from fear and intimidation, from violence and injustice, from chaos and corruption. I see the freedom to look our children in the eye and say, in America, you can go as far as your hard work and talent will take you, and mean it. And you know what? On the other side of that glass ceiling is Kamala Harris raising her hand and taking the oath of office as our 47th President of the United States.
So, Molly, what I was thinking about in that moment is, and so many women, I think, and men perhaps too, were thinking in the room, is Hillary Clinton kind of normalized seeing a woman at the top of the ticket. She also did that through many issues. She's brilliant, experienced. She's been a fighter for justice for her whole career, but also by wearing her first as the first woman on her sleeve. And she did tonight in part two. Now, Vice President Harris doesn't do that exactly. She doesn't talk about being the first Asian American woman, the first black woman, the second woman, or maybe the first woman president as much, or hardly. She doesn't lead with it. What do you make of that strategy? Is this a continuation? Is it a smart strategy for the moment? What do you think?
Well, so I think there's more available to Harris because of Clinton, right? It's many years later, though Donald Trump is still running for president, so that has not changed. But we have seen a woman going for the top job has been more normalized. And Harris is a much more comfortable orator than Hillary Clinton was. And I think part of that is because we've seen Hillary Clinton before. But I also think part of it is that Harris has, and again, like, I have been watching her really intently, interviewing her, writing about her. And the thing I have always been struck by is just how much people do not want to give her the benefit of the doubt and how incredibly underestimated she was at every point. So much so that I would go on television and say, you know, she's actually really good. And people would be like, no, you're just a partisan. And the truth was, I just have to wonder how many black women have been so underestimated like this, right? I mean, she gets out there and she's excellent, right? She is just galvanized the party in ways that none of us could have even imagined. And there were so many pundits being like, they should swap her out. She can't do this, right? And it's been a month and she has been beyond anyone's expectations. So in my mind, I wonder how many black women have had the experience of being told that they are not appropriate for this job. And in fact, they are better than anyone else who would have gotten the job. And so I'm really struck by that.
It's so striking. And I mean, she's been absolutely fearless.